Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Explosive Measures podcast. It's Tommy, Seth, and Mike.
Happy Tuesday. What?
Ooh.
Too
I'm
much.
sorry, Tommy.
Whoa.
Too
Chappy.
much.
Whoa.
Happy Tuesday, Tommy.
There we go. It is a Tuesday.
My voice-
We're back at
My
it.
voice and
That's
lungs
true.
haven't gotten back
Yeah.
completely,
Getting better.
Tommy. I'm sorry. In order, with the congestion, the gravelly tones come out, right? And the high pitch is apparently
Much
a
more
screech.
screeching.
Sorry, Tommy.
You're right. That's okay. They'll recover. Hopefully.
This week's going to be a busy week for Tommy and I. We are ditching the U.S. We're heading out overseas, over the pond.
Incredible.
Don't come back.
Yeah, didn't come. Yes. We will be. So Tommy and I are heading over to the SQL Bits conference. That is happening this week. It's actually already occurring, I believe. It's Tuesday. I believe the pre-cons have already started earlier.
Yeah.
Tuesday morning. So there's two pre-cons. Tuesday and Wednesday are the pre-con days, and then Thursday, Friday are the conference days that you have to pay for, and then there's a free conference day on Saturday.
Yeah.
So come by and say hello and hi to Tommy and myself. We'll be around. Tommy, how's your presentation going? Are you almost done? Is it
Well,
in process?
It's on our Thursday. It's completely done. If it's Thursday, it's completely done. That's what I can tell
If
you.
it's Thursday, you'll be done. It'll be
Listen,
there.
I got 7 hours on a plane. I got more than enough time to do my checks and balances. So I can't. Yeah.
I was going to say, on planes now, the price to get internet on a plane is like next to
99 cents.
nothing anymore.
It's less than a soda.
It's like, yes, exactly. It's like less than a soda nowadays. I mean, seriously, like I was flying the other day, or flying for my last trip, and it was like $5 for the entire trip. I was like, oh, heck yeah, I'll do internet for $5.
It's good internet too now.
And it's pretty decent. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is how it should have been all. I mean, I get they had to put like infrastructure. They're probably all
Yeah,
using Starlink
technology.
anyways. And they're so much closer anyways. Probably it's like,
Yeah.
really, it's right next to it. So they're like, oh, just, we'll have to send that signal like 10 feet. So you might as well just use Starlink anyways.
I'll pay for an Ethernet cord if they want to give it to me. I can't believe that SQL Bits is here. Like I'm literally leaving today.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking in 2 days, which is crazy. I'm absolutely blown away. Like this whole time, it's like, yeah, SQL Bits will come, and it's like, oh wow, it's here.
It's finally here.
Finally here. It's like Christmas Day.
Like Christmas Day.
The-
I was gonna say it's almost like Halloween, but you don't really. I
Oh,
mean, you get
because
to
it's dressed up?
in your costume.
Well, I know some of us dress up for also Christmas too. So,
Oh,
but-
yes, this is right.
yes. No, but yeah, my flight tonight is at 5:30 p.m., which means I'll get there. I didn't realize all the time changes, but even though I'm getting to Ireland like at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., it's really 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, yes.
And then on top of the so
So
everything's gonna
how's your flight going? How are you getting to? So the conference is in Wales,
yes.
and to get there's really not a really easy direct flight from US to
No.
Wales.
So I'm flying Chicago to,
Okay.
and I'm flying Arlingus, the Irish plane,
Mm.
to Ireland.
They give you a Guinness when you get on. You get a Guinness like right away. They better serve Guinness. That better be a thing.
I'm gonna make sure to put a complaint on Twitter if they don't. So,
Mhm.
but flying to Ireland, we'll have a 4-hour layover, and according to my wife, it doesn't count if you're in a place. Well, you have to actually get like step foot out of the building.
Yes.
So I'm gonna have 4 hours. I may do that just to say I've been in Ireland,
Excellent.
and then Ireland to Bristol. So
Okay. And then you're like a taxi cab away from Bristol to
then
Wales.
a taxi cab. I can't do an Irish or British accent. Just around the river.
Please
No,
don't.
I don't know.
Please don't.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Actually, I want to
Tommy,
hear it when you come back.
When was the last time you left the States?
Honeymoon.
So and how long ago was that? That was
10 years.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's been 10 years since you've been outside the States.
Yeah.
Wow, that's and your honeymoon was Italy,
Yes.
of all places. I mean, now that you're so close, you
Slightly
might as well
better food.
You just might as well fly there anyway. Just what's up, Pope? How's it going?
Pope? How you doing?
How you doing? Just gotta swing by before you're already so close.
Yeah. I'll
That's
say
funny.
that story.
I'm
Anyways,
surprised.
yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't actually accidentally make a layover through Italy or something like that. So from Rome or something like that. I don't know. Just
I should be staying longer because I know you're staying a bit too, right?
I'm arriving
We're gonna be roommates.
as well. So
Yeah.
I leave a little bit earlier than you, but I'm flying. I'm doing a little bit longer of a journey to get to Wales. So I'm going Milwaukee to Atlanta. So I'll be in Atlanta airport, which it scares me every time I go through Atlanta. I'm like, will I make it? Is it gonna? Can I get out of there? Like that place is just so busy. Any little weather thing seems to mess the whole place up. Anyways, hopefully it'll be nice weather. Then I go from Atlanta all the way to London. So I'm flying into London, and then I'm taking a train from London, hopefully over to Wales. That is the
Oh
plan.
wow.
So I'll be busy moving around everywhere, doing lots of things.
We're gonna be roomies for a few nights, right?
We'll be roomies.
All right.
We're gonna get there and be like, I'm tired. Let's go to bed,
Yeah. Well, I feel like we gotta get a Guinness.
and then go to bed.
Yeah.
It'll be fun regardless. So looking forward to that. So if you haven't heard about the SQL Bits conference, you are not listening to this podcast because we've been basically saying it since probably about December of last year, talking about the conference. It's going to be fun. Looking forward to it. It is. You can visit at SQLBits.com. There is, if you're in the London area or if you're around the area, there is paid sessions. You can go get. You have to pay to go to the conference for Thursday and Friday. And then on Saturday, there's actually some free sessions. So you can actually show up for free on the Saturday event portion. But you can get a discount code. If you want to go get a discount for SQL Bits, use the code at checkout, PowerBI.tips 5, and you get 5% off your coupon if you want to just last minute pinch hit, jump in and enjoy the conference. All right. Enough of the intro pieces. What other kind of news? Well, actually, maybe not enough of the intro. We bantered about the conference.
Enough of your travel plans.
Let's get that done. Travel plans are done. Let's move on to some other opportunities. Tommy, you found some articles across the internet here. One that I saw tweeted out on LinkedIn, I believe recently from the Microsoft product team, was an on-object public preview. I think you have to opt in for it, but you can on-object edit visuals now inside. Is it desktop or service? I didn't quite get that from the article.
They didn't say. I'm assuming since we're in the middle of March, it's going to be for the March update, but they didn't say.
How do and this is the question, like usually Microsoft just releases things as preview features. Like how do you get this? How do you get,
I bet it's going to be a preview feature.
I mean, of course, but like how do you, if it's an opt-in feature, it gets started, turn on okay, so it's a preview feature switch. That's how you get it. It's an on-object interaction when it comes out.
Right.
Yeah. So this, I wonder if we preempted this because our last episode, when we were talking about paginated, all of a sudden you started seeing stuff in the service.
I was like, what?
Because they have to deploy the bits into the service.
Yes.
Beforehand, but all of the blog posted yesterday is speaking to the desktop, and there hasn't been a desktop update. I don't believe. So yeah. Anyway, coming to a desktop near you.
Yes, exactly. So apparently this is happening, and this has been like on the roadmap for a while. This has been an announced roadmap type item. It's coming out. You're going to be able to do visual editing type stuff, and very excited to see this occurring. It's a double-edged. To me, it's like a double-edged sword. On one hand, I love the idea that it's going to let you do on visual editing. Cool. The flip side of this is I'm looking at it going, oh man. Anyone who's made any kind of documentation about anything ever just got wrecked because this looks nothing like when you turn it on.
No,
you're building the visual in the main visual page. There is no properties pane. Like the properties pane is gone.
It completely disables it.
Yeah.
Is it disable it altogether?
Well, there's I
can't have both.
That's what I'm saying.
Wow. Okay. So
it's so different.
Well, this is a preview feature, right? So
true.
So when in, I don't know, maybe this shot out another update. Go grab another version, or it's in March. I don't know.
I have no clue.
It's gonna be under that file options settings. Yes. Options go into preview features on object interaction.
Yes.
Is what it's called.
Yes.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out with the existing. And to your point, Mike, how many presentations do you have to update now with your visualization class? Right.
Right. I mean,
This is
everything.
how you build something.
It's all different. Every
At
class
least
you have to
for
do
the
like it's
time.
all net new. Like it's major. Again, I understand what Microsoft's doing. They're making it easier, but the amount of rework that needs to occur across the like. And again, I'm not saying don't innovate because of like the handful of presentations that need to be rebuilt there, but I'm just saying like there's a lot of churn now that's going to have to happen to update everything. And again, if people were just getting comfortable with the way it was to build visuals before, either this
with the
better
format pane and everything. Yeah, the new
right?
format pane.
A brand new format pane. Everything's and then everything's renamed. Hi, we'll change the names after 6 years working with the program for all the features you were building. And I get it.
The joys
Oh
of
boy,
being a presenter and having the ability to, give back to the community, Mike. They're endless. Just
endless.
It's just endless opportunity for us to constantly innovate, or in this case, redo
everything.
Well, here's my thing. Forget the demo side. Like, this has to work, and it has to work well. Like, I don't know about you guys.
100%.
I wasn't a huge fan of the Excel way of formatting. Like, it was a little frustrating, and I think with all the visuals and the components in a Power BI visual, like we'll see how it works. But
I mean, I get it. Like, I've done some formatting in Excel visuals, and yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, if the data lines are all really smushed together, and it's very hard to select which data series you're clicking on or connecting to, and you have to kind of get used to it. But I would also argue, is what we have now better than the editing experience in Excel with all the filter pane challenges?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm not. They both have their pros and cons. I'm not sure I would lean one way or the other one on this.
I guess my question would be, how much experience do you guys have with other reporting tools? Because
what other reporting tools?
I know, which is why the sentiment, I think. But at the same time, being an old school Microsoft guy, right? Reporting services like hardcore property pane, you guys were just ripping paginated, right? In Power BI.
We were ripping it. We were loving it. That was love.
Hardcore property pane, right? This is how I always interact. I have a canvas, but here's where I select what I want. Other tools, I think, are much more in line with. It's all
Tableau
on
is
this
also
canvas.
no Tableau is also a formatting pane.
Not everything though.
Sure.
So here's what I'll go with. Like, for formatting visuals, I've done R, I've done Deneb, which is much more code based from a visualization building standpoint. I have not built straight code in like D3.js, so I haven't gone out and to build straight visuals that way. So from a code based lens, there's a whole level of different frustration there. I've also used Tableau as part of like my master's in data science, and that program frustrated me to no end, because coming from Power BI,
I was
like, what the heck is this thing? Like, I get it, it's powerful, but the learning curve between Power BI and Tableau was even like the curve is steeper to learn Tableau. I'm like, well, what the heck are we doing here? Versus what I was doing in Power BI.
Well, Data Studio, Google Data Studio, Tableau, Sisense,
Google's okay. I've also used Google's Data Studio.
They all have a dedicated somewhere from the format. I think they do. Yeah, but why change it?
So hold on, Noah. But Mike, if we think about, we just had an episode not long ago where I think it was we were talking about search functionality.
Yes.
And how difficult it was to find certain things, certain properties within, the pane, and where between the visual and generic and all that. Like, the ability now to like have, like, in their example, right, the line charts. To just click on the line chart and be able to change the fill color, or like that's
way more intuitive from it. That is, yes, I agree with that.
So
100%.
if the interaction is such that I can click on the elements of the visual and directly change them,
yes,
that's good, dude. Like, that's a lot easier than trying to find and navigate. And Tommy, you're giving me the eye, but it's like, how many, unless you're in a visual all the time and you're super familiar with it, that if you change context into a different visual, like, those properties aren't aligned the same way sometimes. Right? So just finding the thing you want to change, this could streamline that exponentially.
I think so, 100% on that one.
I mean, if you're doing it this way as opposed to creating a theme,
Sure.
which,
Yes.
we wouldn't be mucking around with any of the properties.
Exactly right. We don't mess with that stuff. So yes, I agree. So I can see the immense value that this will be producing for people, especially as we get closer to this. So I really like the idea of it. I think it's going to be good. I do need to see how it's going to interact and how easy it will be to edit lots of visuals.
Right.
One of my big pet peeves is I want to do things with less clicks. So if you're making me click on stuff more and I'm continually being like a click monster, I have to click this, deeper to get to anything I want. I feel like that's not going to be a value add for me.
Right.
I would literally want
Right.
everything to take less clicks than it does today currently. And that's one of the reasons why I love using themes so much is I can stylize stuff beforehand. And now Theme Generator does live previews of the visuals, which is incredible. Like I love being able to make changes to a theme file and see the visual update in real time as I'm making the changes. That's huge.
Is there anywhere you can do that, Mike?
Oh, you can do that. If you go visit themes.PowerBI.tips, we have now added the feature for our subscribers. So it does cost us something to make sure that the Power BI report renders behind the scenes. So it is a paid feature, but you can save your theme files and you can edit the theme files in real time. So it's almost as good as on visual editing of the properties. I mean, it's almost as good.
Wow.
Except you get a full list of all the properties that are up to date.
That's
so
And
like
it's on a preview.
That's amazing. And that's in production.
That's out.
You can go use today.
You can use it today. So we have a couple. We're still working through all the different visuals, but we have it's on. We're building it out. You're getting a live preview. So, anyways, very cool tool. We're very excited to release that and make sure that's out for people. Check it out. It'll make your on visual editing experience amazing. Anyways.
Anyways, yeah, on Object, it'll be interesting to play around with heavily. I'm sure we'll be talking about it more.
Can't wait to get my hands on it as soon as I can figure out how the heck to use it. What the heck preview am I opting in for? Like, where do I find it? Can't find it.
Yeah.
There's not a desktop update. It just says public preview opt in. Like,
right.
Coming out in 7 months.
Where's the link to opt into the dumb thing? I can't find it. So anyways,
the amazing thing
for all 3 of Microsoft employees who listen to this podcast on the Power BI team, we would love to have some opt-in codes. Please send it to us. You can send it to, podcast@PowerBI.tips and we'll respond there.
Or release your March update, then the blog.
Yes, exactly. Exactly right. Any other items here? Scanner API improvements came out just recently. That's another one I think it's worthy talking about. For those of you who are administrating your Power BI environment, this Banner API now includes more metadata. And you hear the crowd rejoice. More metadata. That's what everyone really wants is more metadata. Refresh settings, RDL, and row level security configurations and more now embedded in the Scanner API, which I think the row level security configuration per data set makes a ton of sense. How are we securing information? Is it consistent across multiple data sets or reports? I think that's relevant.
I think the big one for me is the scheduled refresh. So I'm actually working.
That's true.
Yeah. I'm working on a V3 solution for the solution API that I have, the repo.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be all PowerShell, super efficient. But at this point right now, using their scheduled refresh to actually see your refresh settings, not necessarily the history, but say like, when do we have things scheduled to refresh? Having that all set up in your normal data set or in the scanner results is huge. But you're right, the RLS too, those two are to me are huge properties now, just already enabled. And if you've already set up your scanner API to post with your normal artifacts in the lineage, the normal parameters that are there, you don't have to do anything. You just have to send a new post.
And one thing that was confusing to me, or now that I don't know why it wasn't there already, RDL files, there was no data source connection to it. Like you could get it, hey, here's a paginated report, but there was no relationship to where the workspace or what was associated with that other element. Like no data there. Right. How do you know things are linked? So what the heck? Anyways, very cool. I'm really excited about these extra options, and I would guarantee the scanner API is just going to keep getting more and more information, richer and richer information with all the artifacts that are coming out of Power BI. I think this is continually becoming a more and more. I like seeing this kind of stuff. I like seeing the APIs are going to run the world. Literally, they're going to run the world. Every company is going to need to have a very robust set of APIs and how you work with your application. You're going to need the UI front side of things, but you're also going to need a whole layer of APIs in every single application. If your company's not building with that in mind, that's just how the world works. You're going to be left behind. Anyways, really cool stuff. Well, we've almost got half the episode done without even talking about our main topic. So let's say we transition into our actual topic today. Moving into our actual topic, let's talk about Power BI champions. Let's define what a Power BI champion is. We have an article link in here as well. It's from the adoption roadmap, talking about the community of practice. So I'll throw that link in there as well. It's the Champions Network. That's what it's called. Any thoughts, Tom? You want to kick us off with some initial thoughts here around the champions inside Power BI? What do they mean? How, like, what is this? Is this what term are we talking about here? Who is this person?
Yeah, so we previously went in depth in episode 180, but a champion, and we'll quote from the actual documentation, is a Power BI content creator who works in the business unit that engages in the center of excellence. They're recognized as the go-to Power BI expert. Champion continually builds and shares their knowledge, even if it's not an official part of their job role. So in a basic summarization, they are a content creator in Power BI, even if they're not necessarily a business intelligence analyst, but they are empowered by the center of excellence.
And I think the champion here is someone who's a characteristic. I like that definition. I think I would also add the emphasis here, I think, to me is like, this is a person who's like a lifelong learner, willing to take on challenges and very interested in helping others find the benefits of going with Power BI. And that was like me, I think, when I started to some degree, is I was that champion, right? I was learning everything I could. I was blogging about it. I was getting all the content I could create around Power BI because I thought it was just incredible. And I feel like I saw, and I think my vision wasn't necessarily for Power BI. I think the reason why I really liked Power BI was Power Query. I think Power Query was the sealed deal for me. I'm like, this thing's stinking amazing. It automated so much of my workflow of being able to grab stuff into Excel or Power BI. Incredible. And like just that ability to connect to so many things and stitch data together. It's what I was already doing in Excel already, but now I could just do it in an automated way. That was huge. And so that drove me to become that champion. And every time I looked around, it didn't burn me up. It wasn't like an anger thing. It was just like, there's a better way, people. Like I would literally, and I remember having moments, or there was a vision where so we worked at a building where we had what we would call picnic benches. Like, so it's literally like a desk row where there's no cubicles. It's literally just a row of desks, and you had your little area, your little space, and it was very narrow. And you literally sat next to the person in your teams. It was like next to each people. So as I was walking down the rows or aisles in the company, I could look at everyone's screen, and you could see everyone had Excel up. Every single person in Excel, moving data, crunching numbers, doing stuff. I was like, this is some other conversations we had previously, was like looking at all of the work that's being done in the office. I kept thinking to myself, it's like we're a factory of data workers. Instead of being in a machine shop making parts, we're in a building making data happen. We're moving it from here, we're shaping it, we're putting it there, and it's just repeated over and over again. And I thought, man, there is so many needs to automate and make this more efficient. Anyways, sorry, random tangent.
It's not random. You're also kind of describing our conversation around virtuous waste, right? Like folks are just doing the same things every day, clicking the buttons, moving stuff around, and there are different ways you can automate that and simplify a whole work stream realistically, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think the value in, or what you're describing, is what we would look for in champions, right? But
yes,
it's that excitement when you bring solutions like Power BI and that is all encompassing, including Power Query. And I agree, Power Query within it is one of the biggest things that business folks get excited about when they start to integrate with Power BI, right? Above and beyond
Agreed.
Excel. Like whatever they're working in, the ability for them to connect to multiple sources, automate all of those processes, work through things, from a step-by-step perspective. It's the same type of thing that they're doing in the Excel files, and then build aggregations and metrics, and then it's just refreshing automatically for them. It gets
Huge.
people excited.
Mhm.
And I think
Yeah.
that's where as organizations, it's really important to not only foster that, but then plug into that. And that's where champions come in. Are you being cognizant that these changes within the business are occurring, or you're trying to make them occur, and then you're leveraging that excitement and what that time saving is doing for people, so that you're sharing that message across the organization? Because like to your point, Mike, right? Like for us, it was kind of coming at it from different directions, but the excitement was shared when we were both consulting at the same firm, where we were preaching the message right off the bat. And like
Right
when
away.
you talk to companies and saw business folks, and you got in their face and you were showing them how to do things, light bulbs started turning on all over the place. And that's why I think Power BI is as successful as it is because of that ability to automate the process behind the scenes for business users in a way that they can understand.
Yes. Well, I would agree. And I think that's that message there is like the tool. And I think the main message that I really liked particularly around Power BI and particularly champions were able to bridge that gap between the pure IT and pure business. Like that's the person who's getting more technical in the tool. And I think this is, again, my opinion here is like when you were talking about data things, it was like all IT, where it was SQL and back-end servers and things, or it was like everyone in Excel. And I felt like there was no single tool that could span both worlds in an easy to use format. And I feel like that's where the analysis services inside Power BI Desktop. And again, analysis services is the secret sauce. The model is the secret sauce.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you say that and I chuckle, right? Because
why does the analysis service make you chuckle so much?
No. What makes you chuckle is you saying that champions are the bridge between IT and business. Yes-ish, right? I would suggest a full-blown BI developer knows that position. The thing that makes me chuckle is a champion doesn't recognize that they are in that position. Because
That's true.
if you think about what's happening here, is in many cases, including yourself, right? You were a business side person. Power BI opened, I should say, Business Plus, right? You had other coding, and you were doing a lot of things in Excel, but at the same time, it was the technology stack underneath Power BI that you were taught and learned that all of a sudden opened this door into the enterprise space because it's the same tech stack. And I think that's what's most interesting to me about Power BI is having come from an enterprise space and been consulting on the business, etc. You see that champions are leveling up their skills in the technical sector so that they could take a job there, as opposed to staying in business units, etc.
So I have to ask, I think we all know the value of the champion. I think we're talking about this in the realm of from the adoption point of view. I want to ask, and just how important are these champions in terms of, obviously, like, I don't want to say do you need them, but at the same point, like, we talked about launching and identifying champions in episode 180, trying to find them and then helping them, the incentives, right? But I guess all the effort, because it does take a lot of effort to set up the champions network. It's not an easy thing. It's an effort.
Yes, it is effort, but I will also say I think champions already exist. You just need to channel their forces.
Right.
It's like I've been watching The Mandalorian with my son. We've been going through the episodes, and so it's been good. But it's like you just need to touch the force. You just need to get in touch with the force. It's the Power BI force. You just need to resonate with the force a bit more and channel the power that is already in you that you're not using today. Like
Mandalorian has Outlook and calendar bookings, so
exactly. You need you need me to go fix a problem of
does the
yours. Please
Mandalorian have an
use
E5
my
license?
calendar
Yeah.
Outlook book my time.
Yeah.
I'm in the wrong. I'm on the
This
the
is the
wrong
way.
Dago bid system. You know, you have to.
Yeah.
This is the way.
This is
But it's like that. Like there's already people in your organization that are already acting as if they are champions. I think there's potentially opportunity around just finding them is the trick, and then being able to channel the effort and the energy that they're doing, so that way multiple champions are moving the same direction together.
and that's the
And
part
that's the hard part.
Yeah. So no, I agree. There's probably already champions at your organization that you can identify. But like you said, to move them all in the same direction and to move them all into the direction you want in synergy does take the effort for it to show value. And I guess let me ask that then. What value do the champions really provide when you actually have it set up running like a well-oiled machine?
Well, I think the difference lies in champions are the problem solvers. They're the go-getters. They're the ones that are teaching and helping other people in their business units. So as a business, you're benefiting from that, right? Like there's already value there, and you're not losing that value.
Sure.
What I would say though is you're not leveraging that to maximize that level of individual in your business, right?
Correct.
And that's where
you're leaving me on the bone.
Yeah, having a strategy or a plan to build adoption frameworks and roadmaps, et cetera, and leverage or identify that group of people, and then maximize that potential into directions within other areas of the organization. It is where I think a lot of the explosion of their interests and all of the things that they're doing for an organization starts to resonate in within a larger audience within the organization. And that's where I think they're pivotal, I think, in some degree, of being the business side, business experts in their particular units, right? Having that domain knowledge and centralizing that group and shaping a direction in which they can start to influence others in the organization to maybe grow more champions or spread the word of like how you become more efficient.
Yes.
And I think that's ultimately, I think they're a linchpin in how you start to raise the data literacy and create a data culture within an organization, because it can't just be one person. It can't be you sitting and I think we've not only talked about it, but it's got to be outlined in the adoption framework somewhere, or in some article we've read in the almost 200 episodes we've done, where like you can't be the person that just sits down and writes out how this whole plan's going to go, right? People are what make this work, and this is also why creating a data culture is so dynamic within different organizations, is because people are different in organizations.
Agreed.
Right. So if people are a linchpin, I think champions are, a significant portion of the success of an adoption framework.
But usually the champions aren't the one making the decisions, right?
No.
Like, and that's usually from the governance, from the stakeholder point of view.
Sure.
The champions are a support, right?
Yeah, agreed.
So,
but but aren't champions your most likely candidates to be part of your center of excellence?
They're a support role, go-to person, but they're not necessarily the leaders in your BI adoption roadmap.
No, I agree. I would agree with that. And
Yeah.
Mike, I wouldn't say your champions are part of the center of excellence.
Yeah.
Like that might be a carrot or something way at the end,
Right.
but it's typically the leaders or the centralized BI group that is the center of excellence creating all the rules. Your champions, if you want a correlation, what are MVPs to Microsoft? We don't make decisions. We don't like
unpaid
they
people really hard is what we are.
But at the same time,
security.
why do we do it? We love community. We love the technology.
Right.
We love what it does for like. It's literally like the same thing. I don't think there's going to be any
It's a great example.
Combativeness, or like any problems within an organization where a champion feels the need to take on more responsibility, right, in terms of like making decisions or whatnot. I think what the value is an organization is like not only identifying them but rewarding them as a group of people, which just enhances their experience of the work that they're already getting value of personally.
Yes, and I guess and again, when I'm looking at the diagram from that Melissa Coates kind of put together on inside the Power Adoption Framework, that is, the diagram they present there is this idea of here's the surface area of community of practice, here's the surface area of center champions and subject matter experts, content creators.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the center of excellence, and I think yes, I think I understand what you're saying on there, and that the champions are not part of the COE. But I think I feel like there's part of this growth pattern that happens with the center of excellence starts with a very small team. It's very localized. And as that team continues to grow, as the center of excellence expands and you find impact and value from Power BI, there's so much to do in the organization that it has to expand somewhere. And so I'm not saying every champion is in the COE, but what I'm saying is the COE, and again, the diagram says COE closely interacts with champions. So they're very tied together. So it's almost like an extension arm of the center of excellence to some degree. Yes, they may not have all the policy making decisions that the center of excellence is doing, and the center of excellence is in charge of doing actionable, deliverable things. Like they have tasks to do things that increase the data culture across the organization. I would not put that same expectation on top of the champions. Right? Champions don't have to deliver something back to the organization. They are there to help aid other subject matter experts and largely the larger part of the organization around content consumers or content creators. So I think they're very closely linked, and you have to get buy-in from them. They have to understand the value of what you're producing. So I agree with you in that champions are not the center of excellence members. However, as your center of excellence grows, you will be probably plucking some of those champions and bringing them on as center of excellence leaders later on.
Right.
That's what I was trying to say.
And I don't think anyone's going to argue that.
You better not, or because I'm right. Sorry, just teasing.
End of discussion.
Move on. Next topic.
No, Tommy. What were you going to say? Tommy, what were you going to say?
I don't know. Does it matter?
Yes, it does. It matters to me.
I forget how easy those softballs are for Mike.
Oh man, Seth was saying.
If I say anything, I slightly agree with you. Mike has a good point. It's like because I always do. Or it's always just like he's waiting for it.
No, Seth, as you were saying things, Seth, I kept thinking like, how many corny, like you're not firing in all cylinders. You're leaving gas left in the tank. Like I'm trying to think of how many corny like little one-liners I can put in there because if you're not really engaging your champions, you're leaving cards on the table.
Cards on the table.
How cards without champions? Yeah. Anyway.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal. Well, but at the same point, yes, very good point. Mike, more often than not, is correct. Amazing.
No, I'm not. I just
like praying from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I think I see things like I think you guys are making very valid points. I think I just see things from a different lens sometimes, and I keep thinking about like where I've seen companies start and where they get to. And there's to me, there's a lot more of this growth pattern as everything's maturing in this space.
So, but again, even though you may bring some of those people into the role more to be a more active role, the majority of champions are still going to be that, to Seth's point, like that MVP kind of on the not on the side, but they're not decision makers. I guess
agree.
The question I have though is, well, how much do champions really, the majority of the time, actually advance the maturity levels and advance your adoption roadmap? If you were to have a champions network, like what intrinsic value are they propelling you towards adoption compared to if you did not have them? How much would you be limited?
And that's okay. So
we'll start with the first question
from my perspective, right? I think it's it's an outline of the distinction of the different roles of the COE of the community of practice. Like ultimately the community of practice, this body of people is what makes this successful. The COE is essentially defining the objectives, creating some frameworks, right, of how we go about doing that, and
measuring
then,
success or not
right,
success.
and the champions, the content create, like all the people that are using these BI tools within an organization are really the drivers, right? Like
Right.
all you're providing from a COE perspective is the frameworks by which you're trying to implement something with people in an organization to make it successful. And part of that success is user adoption, is data access, like people knowing where data is, how to use it, and how to create things, right? And you're leveraging all of the people who are, for all intents and purposes, the experts within your organization, regardless of where they live, to help you achieve that goal, right? Because a lot of this is not like, I think it's leveraging these frameworks with certain rewards, but at the same time, you're not saying, hey, finance user who happens to be a Power BI expert in your business unit, I'm going to change your role within the company. That's not how it rolls, because the finance leaders are going to be like, no, you're not. Like, this is my go-to person. You're not touching them.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where
Yeah.
I think a lot of the agreements across the board related to sponsorship, executive sign off, like these are initiatives or objectives that the company has to have, because you do want to bogart some of their time, right? Because at the same time, you're not leveraging them and saying, hey, on top of everything else you're going to do this outside of work hours and help me out, right? They may or may not, but you can't play it that way. So I think in terms of overall community of practice, all of these pieces have to work in tandem together in order for any sort of success, and how well they work together, I think, denotes how successful an adoption roadmap looks like. Does that answer your question?
No.
Do you remember your question?
Yes.
Do you remember your question? I think if we had to look at like a lot of the champions, they would likely walk around your business wearing the Eat, Sleep, and Power BI Repeat T-shirt that you would find from the PowerBI.tips swag store. So shameless plug.
They totally would.
They would totally have a shirt that just talks about, everything they do is Power BI. That's when you see. So this is a dead giveaway. If Tommy's trying to scan the QR code as we speak, this is the dead giveaway. You find the shirt, and if anyone's wearing this shirt, they're on my team. And
they're
so
on my team.
Sorry, I had to throw something in there. It's funny. Shameless.
All right. Well, it's a great time to rephrase the question then.
Okay, rephrasing question.
Having set up a solidified champions network, how much can that propel the adoption roadmap if you were not to have it? Like, how far can the solidified champions network propel you in your maturity levels in setting up and really growing your adoption?
So, okay. I think it's hard to quantify how far you're propelling. I think data culture is a difficult thing to measure in general.
Huge,
right?
Yeah.
Like you can't just put a yardstick on top of that and be like, oh yeah, we're just going to okay, we were a data culture 3, we're now a data culture 7. I mean, you can probably put some things around that are helping you define what that means, but I think it's a little bit more fuzzy there, right? I think your trade-off here is, if you're going to have that dedicated center of excellence team, investing in the broader part of your organization, right? If you think about the ratio of what you have for people to tool, right? You may have 1,000 people creating or consuming content, right? I just need access to data. That's one side of things, right? Then the flip side of that is, okay, not just access to data. We're now talking about report builders of that information. So you may have 100, less, right, of the report builder consumption area in Power BI. And then even less than that, you're going to have data modelers, right? So in all of those areas, if you think about the different personas or the different types of actions that occur throughout your Power BI ecosystem, you have people consuming content, you have people making reports, you have people modeling data, and you have people that are releasing that content in a regulated way, either deployment pipelines or some SharePoint setting, whatever that is. I think that's the extent of what you do in Power BI. that Power BI is a part of those roles. If you don't engage a champion network, all those responsibilities of educating and moving your team, your company from where you are now of like, we only focus on Excel and I get these exports and that's all we do, to a culture where we're trying to say, build common data models, distribute information. If you're trying to move that direction, all of that force or all that movement of effort relies solely in the center of excellence. The center of excellence has to lift every stone to do that work. And so what I'm saying is the champions are now partners where they're not directly being paid by the IT shop or the center of excellence leader, right? They're also finding value. And I think you should be able to align with other people in the organization who have the same vision or culture as you. And what you're doing is you're finding people that align to your culture. You're helping them, enable them to do more with what they have. But in turn, the exchange is they're investing in other people in the organization, right? So if we want to think about where do we spend our efforts, if I can build one data model that serves thousands of people with a handful of reports, well, I should focus my attention on building a really dang good model that can meet all these other people's needs in a large audience. That's the goal here. So, to strategically identify where's the mechanical advantage of me as the center of excellence. And I think their mechanical advantage, or the other term you hear, the buzz term, force multiplier. Where's my force multiplier? That comes from those champions. Well, so I think you can do it. Yeah. I think you can do it faster with champions.
So I would
very bad answer to your question.
No, I think both are good answers, and it's not an easy question. Like it's not like a straightforward question. Like,
agreed.
Like what's
That's why we keep you around, Tommy. You stump me all the time.
Wow, that's an admission.
But you ask these questions, like I'm like, it's really making me. I'm chewing on the like I'm really working through the content here. Like I'm trying to really figure it out.
Podcast. That's why
it's so challenging. Yeah, it's good. You make me thinking.
Yeah. Well, to me, I would say like, yeah, and I think that's the fun part of this. I would say, yeah, there's no measurable use, calculate, and a filter, and you're good, you're done. Yes. But I would say like what you would imagine if you were to have a good champions network set up, I would imagine user support would be a huge proponent that you would see some benefit towards having the champions network set up, because if these are your go-to people, then people identify champions to not just the center of excellence, but the business, right, identifies who these champions are.
Each business unit is going to have a champion doing something anyways, whether it's the guy running around Excel doing Excel stuff all day long, or it's somebody else doing, like, there's always that team member, I think, in every department, because every department needs data. There's always going to be a person in that department that is going to be focused on doing good things with data. So they're already there. We're just trying to engage those people to be more efficient with, okay, now let's just take what you've been doing. Let's add Power Query. Oh my gosh, look how much time this saves you. Hey, let's talk about data modeling for your department. Oh my gosh, look how much time this saves you. So I think your point there is very well taken, Tommy. I agree.
And the important distinction is we've identified champions not just within the center of excellence, but the department knows who the champion is as well, because we've promoted them as well. We've identified them, and their incentive is like they are champions. So people will go to them for user support. People will go to them with questions as well, besides just the hub. And I think that would be a big way in terms of ongoing adoption that you should expect having set up and having put the effort into a champions network, where that they're going to be another level of support, another layer of support for your business and for the department. Because if I'm sales and sales has two champions, well, I don't have to necessarily reach out to IT or BI. I can go to my champions for questions. And the champions will know. And I can go to my champions for requests. I can go to my champions for support. And I think that's a big part where ongoing adoption, there's another level, there's another ecosystem, so to speak, of growth happening without the BI team having to consciously do it, where it's not like we're setting up the office hours and power hours and we're doing the communication. Well, we know that within each department, these champions are putting effort in without us having the knowledge of them possibly doing it. So there's that ongoing adoption happening within those subsections in the departments. To me, that would be something I would expect.
I like this conversation, and it's kind of throwing two thoughts. One is I agree, right? In terms of deployment, in uh, having better adoption within an organization, doing it alone versus a group, I think
Right.
is what we're outlining. Like if you have a group of people, you're going to deploy it faster. You're going to get it a wider spread within organizations, and champions help you do that. One of the interesting thoughts I had, not to derail, but I'm going to derail potentially,
Oh boy.
is is if you think about one of the challenges of creating frameworks and a spread of proliferating data and business intelligence tools like Power BI in an organization, one of the challenges is technically we're creating what we're creating the perception that we're creating more work within the organization, because all of these people that we're teaching how to use these BI tools all of a sudden generate a lot of support requests, right? They need support to learn or make use of these tools. And that's where the champions framework comes in, Tommy, to your point, where you're now allowing the organization to absorb some of that instead of all of it filtering back up to where it would go, which is the COE or the business intelligence team, having to handle all of the requests of the organization as you train and teach more people. But I think it's a perception thing, right? If you think about it, because are we creating more work? Kind of. But I think what's happening more often is we need to shape that communication with the organization in such that it's like, hey, these initiatives are going to shine a light on the deficiencies we have in our systems, in our processes, and how people are doing things in a manual basis. So their efforts are going to be focused more on learning these tools, which will lead to greater efficiencies across the organization. But up front, you better expect that there's going to be a lot of challenge around these people having questions that they need answers for in order to leverage and utilize the tools that you're trying to share throughout the organization. What do you guys think of that?
Oh,
Am I
man,
off base, on base?
No, I think you're spot on base. I mean, spot on
on base.
Spot on base point.
All your base are
You're safe on first.
Yes. Who's on first? What's on second? I think that's how it goes.
You hit the ball, touchdown.
I'm gonna use that from now on.
Score
that was
goal
spot
unit.
on base. Spot on base.
Score a goal unit.
Spot on base.
I agree with where you're at. I think that is very a wise observation of how it actually it displays itself. I think that's very. Yes, I would agree. I think you're on point.
No, I really like that too, because I think that's kind of maybe another manifestation or another way that you should expect the Champions Network to show its value is the projects that you're working on. They're part of the feedback loop where you're going to them going, what are you hearing are the hurdles or the barriers within the team?
So you can't be everywhere all the time.
Right. So that should force the projects that the BI team and governance is working on are directly correlated with what the business is needing. Because they're kind of the eyes and ears of every department. So then if you were to look at what projects are we doing from an adoption roadmap, well, they're directly tied to what the champions are saying.
Agree.
And I don't know if that's kind of what you were saying, but that's kind of how I took it.
I think that's a good summary of what's going on there.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, I think it's another strength of the champion of leveraging champions.
Yes,
right? Is messaging, right? Like we should not leveraging champions means that you're going to leverage their expertise and help them help you. Right?
Yes, it's symbiotic relationship. It goes back and forth.
It shouldn't be a burden to them. It should be opportunities for them to shine and show their strengths, not giving them tons more work. Right. And how you communicate through them to the other parts of the organization, I think, could definitely impact the rapid success
Yeah.
or not as much success, depending on how you use them.
And I think one can argue too that this is
agree.
part of the incentive for the champion, where if the BI team, the Center of Excellence, is going to the champions and saying, what are you hearing? What needs to get done? Where are the barriers? And that they're being listened to, I think is a huge part, that they feel like they have a say. They feel like they are actually directing how adoption is going. And I would argue that the Champions Network, just like I think with MVPs too, like the same thing. I think that was a great a correlation, where the part of the fun, like honor being MVP, is Microsoft does ask us, and there are calls that they have on how are things going, what do you hear, and we're being the eyes and ears of the community.
Sure.
And I think that's a huge thing that
Yeah,
one
that's
of
a
the
good
things that
point.
also I get a lot of value from, and I think champions would too, where it's like, wow, the BI team's listening to us. They're hearing that people want more self-service, and now they're doing it because I said that, and they're feeling like they have a say, and they're swaying that. So, and honestly, the two things that we said, I think both the user support and the projects the BI is working on can be measured. And I think you can create a measurement to say, what are the impactful things we're working on, and to say when we started it to when we completed it, to say what impact that's done, and you can correlate that to the champions.
Oh my gosh, guys. Okay. Well, it's at that time. What does ChatGPT say? We need a better intro. Like, tell me
Where's
the answer. Anyways,
Where's
so
the chimes?
I need some chimes,
Doo-doo-doo.
Yeah, it's time. It's that time again of this episode. We're going to go to ChatGPT and we're going to see how accurate was our conversation based on what ChatGPT says is valuable for Power BI champions. The question today is, why should your organization have Power BI champions? The reasons, and literally, we knocked, I think, every single one of these off. I'm like, boom, boom, boom.
Nice.
So I think I like this one. This is a good score here on this one. So first one, promoting the adoption of usage of Power BI, 100%. Right? We want these champions to engage with the community and help out with that. And then sharing best practices. Exactly. Right? We can't invest in every single person in the organization. We want to invest in the champions. And let the champions use those best practices across the organization. 100%. We just talked about that. Driving innovation. And this is one I don't think we directly talked about, but champions can drive innovation with organization and experimenting with new features and functionality, sharing their findings with their colleagues. And I would ultimately also echo here, if something new comes out like on visual editing or whatever, and you need help figuring out what's the best practices for that, your champions are going to be the ones that are going to be excited about going to play with that new feature.
No.
And the Center of Excellence should be going back to the champions and saying, hey, this new thing's out. Can you test this? How should we use it? It should be like that symbiotic relationship. Like, go build, innovate things, make stuff, come back to us. Hey, how well does Power Apps integrate with what you're doing? What are you finding for challenges or barriers? Or are you using Power Automate? Where does that fit inside Power BI? Help me figure where these surface area pieces live. Improving your data literacy, and this is where I would echo. This is data culture, right? This is the same statement. Champions help improve your data literacy across the organization. They train and support their colleagues and help them understand how to use data to make better decisions. 100%. That's exactly what they should be doing, and they're already doing it. They're just not necessarily tied in with the Center of Excellence, and so putting a title on them, I think, makes a lot of sense. Then lastly, providing feedback to IT. Power BI champions act as a liaison. Tommy, this is just what you were saying. They act as a liaison between the IT department, or again, in this case, I would say Center of Excellence, providing feedback on features and functionality, advocating for new improvements that would benefit the organization. They're your frontline workers. Mm-hmm. They understand what's happening day to day, and they're helping you build the next best thing. Overall, having a Power BI champion can help an organization get the most out of Power BI. 100% agree there. Apparently, Microsoft is able to scrape their own website for ChatGPT, and this is literally the bullet points from the Microsoft site or whatever. Anyways, nice job, ChatGPT. You're on point yet again. And with that, I want to say thank you all very much for listening to this full hour of the episode. We appreciate your time. A great discussion today, and our only ask to you as a listener is, if you found some value with this one, if you didn't know this amazing swag lived on the internet and you needed to go get some of that, just in case you're looking for a new t-shirt, to throw in your closet just because, you need some new swag, whatever.
Or if you're looking for ways to reward your champions in your organization, a great way to do that would be
get
from
them
the
some PowerBI swag.
Oh, you need a We Are the Champion shirt.
Oh,
but that might be trademarked.
That's happening out today. So your shirt coming out today. So thank you all very much for your participation, and the chat was lively. Thank you very much, chat. As always, we appreciate your comments. You're doing an amazing job just kind of engaging with the conversation. We thoroughly love it. Thank you all very much. Please share with somebody else that you would find value to this one. And Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find the podcast anywhere it's available, whether you're in the Americas, the UK, which, Mike, I'll be buying you a Guinness tomorrow.
Ooh.
So in Wales,
in Wales,
UK, you can listen on Apple, Spotify, no longer Anchor because Spotify bought them, but that's another thing. So, or whatever. So, and if you want to join the conversation live, you can do so on PowerBI.tips channels, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
All the things. We're out there.
7:30 in the morning, AM Central.
Thank you so much, Power BI champion community. And probably most everyone who actually understands the podcast is like, yeah, they're all champions anyway. So they're like, yeah, we get it. We understand. So thank you all for being amazing Power BI people. We love the community. We appreciate you so much. Have a great week, and we'll see you around.